Here's a perfect example of how to test if your alternator is working. This is a 2005 Honda Pilot, and it started to have some pretty severe symptoms whenever the alternator was going bad. What started happening was you have a lot of underpoweredness in the engine. Like the transmission wasn't shifting, it was keeping you in a high gear, or it was just slipping a whole lot. You couldn't even make it up a small hill, and a whole lot of other weird things were happening, like lights on the dash, windows were really slow, and everything was really weird. All the gauges in the dash completely went to zero, and the engine was pulsing up and down and just wanted to stall. So there were a lot of issues with this particular car whenever the alternator failed. I charged the battery up, and right now we're reading 13.1 volts. Whenever we start the car, we should see that voltage go up because the alternator is throwing power back into the battery. Whenever the engine is started, we should be seeing close to 14 volts, and right there it's at 12.48 and not going up, so it used a little bit of the power and it's not putting any back in, so that's a sign of a bad alternator. I'll go over to a healthy car and show you what this is supposed to look like. With the engine off, I'll check this battery on the Suburban, and we're looking at 12.36. Let's start it and see where it's at. Now we're running at 14.6 volts, and that's what we want to see. And that's a really simple way to test the alternator, and really what you're doing is testing the whole alternator system. So it might not actually mean that the alternator is bad. It could be a bad ground somewhere in the circuit. It could even be that your alternator is unplugged, or it could mean that your alternator is bad and it needs to be replaced. So you need to check everything, the grounds, but you know that something is wrong with your alternator circuit.